My name is Connie Wilson, and I'm 28 years old. If you looked at my life from the outside a year ago, you'd probably say I had it figured out. I'm a logistics coordinator for a mid-size freight company in Nashville. It's not glamorous, but it's stable, the pay is solid, and I'm good at it. My whole job is basically controlled chaos, routing trucks across 6 states, juggling emergency shipments, and putting out fires before they even start. My weekdays looked the same, and I liked it that way. Up at 5:30 a.m., a quick workout in the corner of my spare bedroom, some weights, a pull-up bar, a few runs on the treadmill I swore I'd actually use this time. Shower, coffee, out the door by 6:45. At my desk by 7 sharp, headset on, screens lit up with maps and spreadsheets. Some days I'd be diverting a truck of medical supplies around a storm front. Other days, I'd be trying to get a critical machine part to a factory before their entire production line froze. You don't get to be dramatic in my job. You breathe, think 3 steps ahead, and move the pieces. Quiet competence. That's my lane. My home life matched the job. Practical, steady, under control. I rented a decent 2-bedroom in a quiet complex 15 minutes from work. Beige walls, industrial carpet, nothing fancy, but over time I'd made it mine. Clearance sale couch, big TV mounted on the wall, plants I was weirdly proud of keeping alive. One bedroom was my actual bedroom. The other was a combo home office and mini gym. My truck, a paid-off Ford Ranger, ran like a tank. My dad, a retired financial advisor, had hammered one lesson into me since I could count: control your money or it will control you. So I stayed out of debt, stashed cash into savings and investments, and avoided drama. That last part, the avoiding drama thing, yeah, life had other plans. Weekends were simple. Hiking trails just outside the city, watching Predators games with my best friend Noah, maybe working on my truck in the parking lot if the weather was good. I had my circle of friends from college and work, people who helped you move without complaining, who showed up with jumper cables before you even had to ask. No theatrics, no emotional tornadoes. Exactly how I liked it. That was where I was when I met Liam. We matched on one of those dating apps about 18 months before everything went sideways. Liam was 26, a paralegal at a downtown family law firm. His profile was almost suspiciously normal. No shirtless gym selfies, no cryptic quotes about loyalty, just a few pictures of him with his dog, some hiking shots, and one at courtroom steps with his tie slightly crooked and this half-embarrassed smile. Our first date was supposed to be harmless, just coffee, neutral territory. If it was awkward, we could both escape with a polite, "I have an early morning." Instead, coffee turned into dinner, and dinner turned into us closing down the restaurant because neither of us realized they were trying to sweep under our feet. The cafe was one of those downtown spots with exposed brick and reclaimed wood tables. I got there 15 minutes early. Punctuality is a religion in my family, scrolling through routing emails on my phone when he walked in. Tall, dark hair, a little overdressed for coffee, but in a charming way. When he spotted me, he smiled like he was genuinely relieved I was real. We talked about everything: his work in family law, messy divorces, custody battles, grandparents' rights cases, my life in logistics, and how people underestimate how fast the world falls apart when trucks stop moving. Our families, how we both ended up in Nashville, where we saw ourselves in 5 years. He liked that I had my life together: stable job, savings, routine. I liked that he seemed emotionally literate, which is rarer than people admit. He asked good questions, listened when I answered, remembered small details. He said he wanted stability and a real partnership. At the time, that sounded perfect. Red flag in hindsight, he called his last relationship complicated but over. Then he changed the subject. I filed that away and didn't press. I wanted to be open-minded, not suspicious. The first 6 months were honestly great. We rotated between my place and his smaller apartment with the better kitchen. He'd bring wine, I'd bring ingredients. We'd burn half the Pinterest recipes we tried, then laugh and order pizza. He came to a couple of my company events. I showed up at his happy hours and listened to his coworkers' war stories about nightmare clients. He met my parents and they adored him. My mom liked that he was career-focused. My dad appreciated that Liam asked specific questions about investments and didn't glaze over when my dad said phrases like index fund. They started inviting him to Sunday dinners, including him in holiday plans, slipping his name into conversations like he was already part of the family. His parents were more formal. Perfect house, perfect throw pillows, the kind of place where you're afraid to put your glass down without a coaster. But they were kind, always offering food, always asking about my job like it was actually interesting. It felt serious, in a good way. We talked in vague terms about moving in together one day, maybe getting a dog when his schedule calmed down. The domestic daydream, cozy, predictable, safe. Then I met her, without actually meeting her. Her name was Brianna. Technically, she'd been there the whole time. Liam's best friend, his college ex-girlfriend, the person he'd shared so much life with that it would be weird not to stay friends. According to him, they'd broken up about 8 months before he and I matched. It was mutual, they'd grown apart, blah, blah, blah. The standard script. I'm not the type to insist someone erase their past. People can be friends with exes, I told myself, as long as there are boundaries. Keyword, boundaries. It started small, a text lighting up his phone while we were watching a movie. Liam would glance down, smile, type something back, and then tell me, "Sorry, Brianna's having roommate drama again." Like I should automatically understand who she was and why her drama deserved a chunk of our Friday night. At first, I shrugged it off. People vent to their friends. But the texts didn't stop. They multiplied. We'd be having dinner, and his phone would buzz. He'd glance at the screen, face soften in that specific way, and say, "Give me a second, she's freaking out about some guy she's seeing." He'd start crafting long replies while my food cooled on the table between us. Then came the late-night calls. Not quick, "Hey, are you okay?" check-ins. Hour-long, closed-door conversations. He'd step out onto his balcony or into another room, voice low, pacing. I'd sit there on the couch, hearing muffled pieces of their lives spilling into each other. If I asked about it, he'd wave it off. "It's just Bree. She doesn't really have anyone else she can talk to. You know how it is with old friends." Actually, I didn't. My old friends did not call me at 10 p.m. for emotional handholding when I was actively in a relationship, but okay. I tried to be the cool girlfriend, the understanding one, the one who didn't flip out over texts or assume cheating because an ex was in the picture. Every time my stomach knotted, I'd tell myself I was overreacting, that I'd been single for a long time and maybe I just wasn't used to sharing someone's attention. But over weeks, a pattern emerged. Every time Liam and I had plans, date night, a quiet evening in, even just cooking together, Brianna seemed to have a crisis. Car trouble, work stress, guy problems. And every single time, Liam picked up. He'd disappear into another room for 45 minutes or an hour, then come back apologetic but defensive. "She really doesn't have anyone else," he'd say. "I can't just abandon her." He was framing basic boundaries as cruelty. If I pushed back even gently, I'd risk being labeled cold or jealous. One night, we were halfway through a movie when his phone buzzed again. He paused the film automatically, checked his messages, and his expression changed. Soft, fond, a little too tender for someone who claimed to be over it. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said too quickly. "It's just Bree. She's going through a lot." He didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. I understood the subtext. Our night was now secondary. I muted the TV, watching him as he started typing on his phone. In that moment, something clicked, quiet and cold. This wasn't just an ex being friendly. This was an ex still living inside our relationship. And no matter how hard I tried to be cool, to be secure, some part of me knew this wasn't sustainable. I just didn't realize yet how bad it was going to get. For a while, I convinced myself things would settle down. Maybe Brianna just needed to vent. Maybe Liam would eventually set his own boundaries without me having to say a word. Maybe I was being dramatic. But the thing about maybes is that they rot you from the inside. The real unraveling started with Brianna's birthday. Liam mentioned it casually one afternoon while we were folding laundry at his place. "Yeah, Bree's birthday is Friday," he said, tossing a t-shirt into the dryer. "I'm going to stop by her party for a bit." "Cool," I said. "What time should I be ready?" He froze for half a second, just half, but it was enough. "Well, it's more of a college friends thing," he said, avoiding my eyes. "You wouldn't know anyone. It'd probably be boring for you." I laughed lightly. "I can meet new people. It's fine." He shook his head a little too fast. Yeah, but it might make Brianna uncomfortable, seeing us together. That sentence hit me in the chest like a thrown brick. Why would his ex-girlfriend be uncomfortable seeing him with his current girlfriend? Unless they still had something unresolved? Unless they weren't just friends the way he claimed? He didn't wait for me to answer. He grabbed another shirt and kept talking like he hadn't just said something deeply revealing. I'll probably just go for an hour, maybe 2. I swallowed everything I wanted to say. The confusion, the sting, the question burning the back of my throat. Why are her feelings more important than mine? Instead, I nodded. Okay, have fun. That night, I lied awake, staring at my ceiling, replaying the conversation, trying to convince myself it wasn't that serious, but it sat in my stomach like a stone. On Friday, he left at 7 p.m., dressed nicer than usual, new cologne, hair styled like he used to for our first dates. I tried not to overthink it. I watched mindless Netflix and cleaned the kitchen twice. At 10:30 p.m., there was still no sign of him coming home. At 12:15, I gave up and went to bed. He came over the next morning acting perfectly normal, hugged me, kissed my forehead, told me the party was fine, nothing special. I almost convinced myself it was true, until 2 days later, when Noah cornered me after our pickup basketball game. Connie, he said quietly, pulling out his phone. I need to show you something. Not because I want to stir drama, because I'd want someone to show me. My stomach tightened as he handed me the screen. It was an Instagram story reposted by one of Brianna's old friends. A group shot of a couch full of people, everyone laughing, drinks in hand. And there, dead center on the couch, sat Liam. His arm was around Brianna, her body tucked into his like she belonged there. Nothing overtly intimate, no kiss, no hand-holding. But the body language? Anyone with working eyes could see it. They looked like a couple. My chest went hot and cold at the same time. Noah watched my face carefully. Could be innocent, or it could be not innocent. I forced a tight smile. Thanks for telling me. I didn't cry. I didn't blow up Liam's phone. I didn't even mention it. I just carried the image around like a fresh bruise nobody could see. Then came the lie. We had plans to get dinner after work, a tiny place near the courthouse that made the best brick oven pizza in the city. At 6 p.m., Liam texted, "Running late, stuck at the office. Can we push to 7:30? No problem. I grabbed a drink at the bar nearby to kill time. At 7:15, I headed toward the restaurant. And that's when I saw him, not coming from downtown where his office was. He was walking from the opposite direction, where the public parking lots were, laughing at something on his phone. When he spotted me, his smile faltered for half a second. It was the same flicker he had when he told me I wasn't invited to Brianna's party. Then he plastered on the warm, boyfriend-approved smile. Connie, sorry I'm late. Work was crazy. I forced my own smile. Yeah, you mentioned. Dinner was awful. Not the food. The food was great. But Liam was glued to his phone, screen lighting up every few minutes, his fingers tapping quickly under the table, his eyes darting down, then up, then down again. When I asked about his day, he gave vague, one-sentence answers. When I talked about mine, he nodded politely without looking up from his messages. By the time we finished, something in me had snapped, quietly. We drove back to my place. I showered, crawled into bed, and watched him fall asleep instantly, like nothing was wrong. Around 1 a.m., his phone lit up on the nightstand. I didn't touch it, didn't snoop, didn't unlock anything. I didn't need to. The notification preview said everything. Brianna, had fun today, let's do it again soon. My ribcage tightened around my lungs. Today, the day he claimed he was stuck at the office. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding like I was hearing the truth for the first time. The next morning, I waited until he'd had his coffee. I wanted to be calm, clear. Hey, I said, I have a question. Sure, he said, scrolling through Instagram. What's up? You said you were stuck at the office yesterday, but when I got to the restaurant, you were walking from the other direction. Where were you actually? His entire body tensed. He looked up sharply, eyes narrowing, like I'd accused him of a felony. Are you tracking me now? He snapped. That's creepy, Connie. I blinked. Tracking you? I was early. I saw you walking up. It's not complicated. He set his mug down too hard, ceramic cracking against my counter. Fine, he said with a sharp exhale. I was having coffee with Bri. She's having a rough week. I didn't tell you because you get weird about her. I stared at him. Weird? I get weird. Liam, you lied. I didn't lie, he shot back. I just didn't mention it because you overreact constantly. There it was. The pivot, the deflection, the gaslighting. He was caught, but somehow this was my fault. Liam, I said quietly, you lied about being at work. You lied about being with her. This isn't me overreacting. This is you hiding things. He stood abruptly, grabbing his keys. I'm not doing this, he said. You're being insecure, and I refuse to be in a relationship where I'm constantly interrogated. Insecure? I repeated, the words slicing clean through me. Insecure because my boyfriend lies about seeing his ex-girlfriend? That's not insecurity. That's me paying attention. He shook his head, already walking to the door. Maybe we both need space, he said, voice cold. Think about whether this is even working. And then he left. Just walked out, leaving me standing barefoot on the kitchen tile, my coffee going cold, wondering how the hell I ended up defending myself after catching him lying. I didn't chase him. I didn't text. I didn't beg. I just sat down at my table, staring at the empty chair across from me, feeling the numb, suffocating realization. The person I trusted most had been treating me like the backup plan for months. And I didn't even see the worst part coming. The first day after Liam walked out, I kept my emotions in a tight, airtight box. That's one thing logistics teaches you. You don't panic during a crisis. You stabilize, breathe, break things into manageable parts. So I woke up, worked out, showered, and went to the office like nothing had happened. But every time my phone lit up, which wasn't often, I felt a stupid, automatic jolt in my chest. I kept telling myself not to care, that he asked for space. He made the choice. Still, by the second day of silence, the quiet felt like formless fog. I buried myself in work. A major manufacturing client had an urgent shipment needing rerouting through 2 storm zones. I triple-checked every route, called carriers nonstop, kept my headset on for hours without a break. It helped. Crisis-shaped thinking always did. By the end of day 2, the job was done flawlessly, and I went home mentally fried but emotionally steadied. Day 3 was harder, because day 3 was when my thoughts stopped racing and instead slowed into a cold, aching realization. If he loved me, really loved me, he wouldn't abandon our relationship over a single difficult conversation. He wouldn't punish me for noticing his lies. He wouldn't run the moment accountability tapped his shoulder. And then day 4 hit. It was lunch break. I was eating leftover stir-fry at my desk, scrolling aimlessly through Instagram, something I rarely did at work. That's when I saw it. Liam had posted a story, a nighttime view of downtown Nashville, taken from a high-rise balcony I didn't recognize. The caption, "Sometimes you need to be around people who actually appreciate you." My stomach tightened, but it was the next text, the one from Noah, that made my vision blur for a moment. Noah. Hey, not trying to make things worse, but you should see Brianna's story. My finger hesitated for half a second. Only half. Then I searched Brianna's account. It was public. Her most recent story hit me like a clean punch to the ribs. A short video. Brianna and Liam cooking together in her apartment kitchen, laughing, talking over each other. She wore one of his hoodies, the navy one he'd gotten on our Gatlinburg trip. At the end of the clip, he spun her gently by the waist, like someone spinning the person they're dating, not the person they used to date. My body didn't flood with anger. It froze. There's a kind of pain that's so sharp it doesn't even feel like emotion. It feels like clarity. Cold, perfect, unmistakable clarity. Brianna wasn't just a friend. Liam wasn't just helping her through a tough time. This wasn't complicated history. It was simple. He asked for space so he could try out his backup plan. He wanted freedom without consequences. He wanted to test drive his ex while keeping me as the safety net. The truth wasn't just in the video. It was in the hoodie, in the effortless closeness, in the way he chose her like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I put my phone down and breathed. Slow, controlled, one inhale at a time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't draft a paragraph-long text demanding explanations. No. I picked up my phone and typed one message. Connie, saw the stories. Hope you find what you're looking for. We're done. Send. Then I blocked his number, blocked him on social media, removed every photo we took together, deleted every screenshot of cute texts, cleared out every chat history tab. A clean break. It hurt, but no more than pulling out a thorn that had been rotting under the skin. The pain was sharp, but the relief that followed was deeper. The next morning, Noah showed up at my door holding a to-go bag from my favorite Thai place. I come bearing noodles and judgment, he said. I let him in. He unpacked the food while I sat at the counter, arms slumped on the cool granite. He didn't ask what happened. He knew. We ate in silence for a minute before he said, "You know you did the right thing, right?" I know. You also know he's going to spin this to people as you being jealous over nothing. I sighed. Yeah, he's already planting that seed with his Instagram captions. Noah leaned back on the bar stool. Then we'll plant the truth. If anyone asks, we tell them what actually happened. He lied, he hid things, he treated Brianna like the real girlfriend and you like the emotional babysitter. I didn't realize I'd been holding tension in my shoulders until they softened. Thanks, I whispered. Always. The next few weeks became a slow reclaiming of my life. I deep cleaned my apartment, reorganized the living room, got rid of the fancy espresso machine he convinced me to buy. For us, even though he used it more than I ever did. I washed the sheets, twice, not because I needed to, but because the old ones felt like ghosts. Then I picked up hobbies I'd dropped. I rejoined an old hiking group, went mountain biking with Noah, started cooking for one again. Actual meals, not just peanut butter toast eaten over the sink. And the strangest part? My apartment felt lighter, quieter, not in a lonely way, but in a way that let me breathe. Less cramped, less anxious, less like I was waiting for someone else's emotional storms to pass. One night, I realized I hadn't checked my phone for hours. Not out of avoidance, but because I didn't need to. That was new. And good. Really good. A month later, I saw him. I was loading groceries into my cart at the store when I spotted movement in the corner of my eye. Liam, 2 aisles away. He hadn't seen me yet. He looked different. Tired, pale, dark circles under his eyes that weren't there before, his hair unstyled, his shoulders slightly hunched, like he'd aged 10 years in 4 weeks. I could have pretended not to see him. But I'm not a coward, and I'm not ashamed of how I handled things. So I walked toward him and said, "Hey, Liam." He spun around, eyes widening like he'd seen a ghost. For a split second, something like guilt flickered across his face. Then he put on a shaky smile. "Connie, wow. Hi, how are you?" "I'm good," I said simply. "Work's been busy." He swallowed, hard. "Yeah, me too. Well, trying to be." He looked down at his cart, then back up at me. His voice dropped. "I've been meaning to reach out." "I blocked you," I reminded him. "I know." He gave a hollow laugh. "You're not wrong for that." Silence stretched for a second. Then he said the thing I knew was coming, but still felt like a dull blade. "I made a huge mistake. Brianna and I tried something after the break, and it was a disaster." Of course it was, because reality never lives up to nostalgia. He took a breath, voice trembling. "I realized what I had with you was real, Connie. I messed up. I know that, and I want to fix it. Please, can we talk? Just coffee? Or—" "No," I said it gently, but firmly, like setting down a heavy object without letting it crash. He blinked. "No?" "You made your choices," I said softly. "I'm making mine." His face fell, crumpling at the edges, like someone let the air out of him. "So you're not even going to hear me out?" "I just did," I said. "You regret the choice you made, but regret isn't the same as change." He stood there, breathing unevenly, like he wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. "Take care of yourself, Liam," I said finally. Then I walked away. And this time I didn't look back, because I was finally choosing someone who deserved my loyalty. Me. For a while after the grocery store encounter, life returned to something resembling balance. Not perfect, not effortless, but stable, like a house finally settling after years of structural strain. Work picked up in this best way. My team was crushing deadlines. I coordinated a multi-state shipment for a major medical client so flawlessly that corporate sent a memo naming me directly. It felt good to be recognized, to not have emotional chaos devouring every quiet hour of my day. I didn't post anything about my personal life online, but that didn't stop others from watching. Because a week after seeing Liam, Noah sent me a screenshot. Noah. He added me on LinkedIn, and then messaged me asking how you've been. The message read, "Hey man, hope you're good. Just checking in. Is Connie okay?" I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might lodge in the back of my skull. "He has my number blocked," I said. "I don't know why he thinks he gets a backdoor access through you." Noah shrugged. "Some guys can't handle silence. It's louder than yelling." And silence was exactly what I gave him. Not to be cruel, but because sometimes the only language someone understands is the one they forced you to speak. Over the next month, Liam tried smaller, subtler ways of creeping back into my orbit. A mutual friend casually mentioning, "Liam was asking if you're seeing anyone." A random Instagram like on a photo from last year. The kind of move that screams, "I'm lurking. I want you to know I'm lurking, but I also want plausible deniability." He even added Noah's girlfriend on Facebook. She immediately sent me the friend request with, "Do you want me to decline or should I block him for sport?" I laughed harder than I had in a long time. "Block him," I said, with extreme prejudice. But this was all buildup, because the real moment, the one that ended any lingering doubt about who Liam really was, came at Noah's birthday party. It was a Saturday night at a low-key bar downtown, the kind with dim lights, pool tables, and the smell of lime wedges everywhere. Noah had booked a semi-private area, and people from work, college, and the hiking group drifted in throughout the night. I was in the middle of a pool game with Diego from logistics, lining up a tricky angle when I felt eyes on me. Not casual glances, watching. That primal, animal-level feeling of being observed. I straightened, chalking my cue slowly, and followed that invisible pull toward the bar. And there he was. Liam, standing too stiffly, wearing the blue button-down he always wore to look nice. Hands shoved into his pockets, shoulders tight, scanning the room for me. He'd showed up uninvited. Not by accident, not because a friend dragged him, not because he happened to be nearby. He came for me. Noah materialized at my side like a bodyguard. Want me to tell him to leave? I shook my head. No, I'll handle it. Because the Connie who cried silently into her pillow months ago was gone, replaced by someone who knew exactly where the exit doors were and how to use them. I set down my pool cue and walked toward him. Liam? He turned, eyes lighting up with something raw and desperate. Connie, hey, I wasn't sure you'd want to talk to me. You shouldn't be here, I said calmly. This is Noah's birthday. You weren't invited. His throat bobbed in a swallow. I know. I needed to see you. Please, can we talk? I didn't respond. Silence was always more powerful than yelling. He took my quiet as permission and continued. I've been going to therapy, he said, rushing the words out like he'd practiced them, really digging into my patterns. Why I did what I did. And I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but I've changed. I swear I have. I crossed my arms. Liam, this isn't the time or place. Please, he said again, voice cracking slightly. Just give me 5 minutes. I need you to know I'm not the same person, that I can be better, for you. And there it was, the line he'd been building toward, the plea, the softening, the emotional fishing hook. I inhaled slowly. Liam, I said quietly, being better for me isn't the point. You needed to be better for yourself long before this. He blinked fast, surprised by the firmness in my voice. I miss us, he whispered. I miss what we had, don't you? I stared at him, at the face I once loved, at the man who once held my hand through storms and then became the storm himself. I miss what I thought we had, I said. But that wasn't real, not for both of us. His face crumpled. Connie, I'm sorry. I chose wrong. I know that. I should have chosen you. I see that now. I shook my head. You don't get points, I said softly, for realizing my worth after you already threw it away. People nearby had stopped pretending not to listen. Even the bartender slowed his motion wiping glasses. I lowered my voice but kept it steady. You didn't choose wrong, Liam. You chose exactly what you wanted at the time. You just didn't like the consequences. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Before he could speak, I finished it. You don't get to lose everything with Brianna and come running back to me for comfort. I'm not your backup plan. I never was. And I refuse to be now. The words landed like weight hitting wet concrete, splattering, sinking, unavoidable. Liam swallowed hard, eyes shining. So that's it? That's closure, I said. The closure you keep pretending you need from me. He opened his mouth again, maybe to argue, maybe to break, but Noah stepped beside me with a low, steady voice. You need to go, man. Liam looked between us. Me, unmoved. Noah, unbudging and deflated. He walked out of the bar without looking back, and as the door swung shut behind him, the band playing on the small stage launched into a loud, upbeat song. Noah bumped my shoulder. You good? I exhaled, a long, clean breath that felt like unclenching a fist I didn't know I'd been making. Yeah, I said softly. I'm good. Better than good. For the first time in my adult life, I felt absolutely, unshakably free. In the weeks after Liam showed up at Noah's birthday party, things became strangely calm. Not the kind of calm you get when problems disappear, but the kind you feel when you finally stop letting other people create your storms. And in that new quiet, a healthier part of my life began to grow. His name was Kyle. I met him at a Saturday morning hiking group. He was a physical therapist with sun-browned skin, kind eyes, and a smile that looked like it had never once been weaponized. We ended up walking the last stretch of the trail side by side, talking about work, family, the merits of the perfect breakfast sandwich. It was easy, too easy, honestly. After months of emotional gymnastics with Liam, the simplicity felt suspicious. But the more time we spent together, coffee dates that turned into lunch, Long walks that turned into actual plans, the more I realized healthy doesn't feel dramatic, healthy feels steady. Kyle didn't come with emotional emergencies disguised as excuses. He didn't disappear into another room to take calls from women he didn't have boundaries with. He didn't guilt me into silence when something hurt. If anything, he checked in more than I did. Are you okay with this? Did I misunderstand what you meant earlier? Tell me if something feels off. I'd rather know. It was strange at first, to be treated with gentleness instead of suspicion, with care instead of defensiveness, with consistency instead of crumbs. 3 months after meeting him, we were in a comfortable, steady rhythm. 4 months in, he met my parents. My mom loved him instantly. My dad shook his hand with an approval I hadn't seen since high school graduation. 5 months in, we started talking, lightly, about moving in together one day. Not as a fantasy, but as a possibility. A choice, an adult decision, not a rescue mission. Everything about him felt earned, not clung to. But as my life steadied, someone else's began to crack. And that someone refused to stop dragging me into the wreckage. One Sunday afternoon, while Kyle and I were having brunch, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I don't usually answer unknown calls, but something, intuition, dread, who knows, made me swipe. Hello? A hesitant voice answered. Connie, it's Natalie, Liam's sister. I sat up straighter. Hi, Natalie, I said cautiously. What's going on? She exhaled shakily. Look, I know this is awkward, but I need to talk to you about Liam. Kyle paused mid-bite, eyebrows raised. I stepped outside onto the patio. What about him? I asked. He's not doing well, she said. Really not well. I stayed silent, letting her explain. Natalie continued in a strained whisper. He lost his job 2 weeks ago. His finances are a mess. He's depressed, barely leaves his room. He keeps saying he ruined everything, that he ruined you. He's stuck, Connie. He can't move forward. And he keeps saying the only way he'll get closure is if he hears from you. Ah, there it was. Not closure, responsibility shifting, emotional outsourcing, just like always. What exactly do you expect me to do? I asked calmly. Just talk to him, she pleaded. One conversation. He needs to hear that you forgive him, or he'll never be able to move on. Please. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Natalie, I have been very clear. With him, with myself, with everyone. I'm not going backwards. But you could help him, she insisted. You meant something to each other. Isn't that worth at least one conversation? I took a breath. Deep, slow, controlled. The way you steady your voice before saying the thing someone doesn't want to hear. Natalie, I said, I am genuinely sorry he's struggling, but his healing isn't my responsibility. Closure is something he has to build for himself. It's not something I can hand him like a signed permission slip. She bristled. So you're just going to leave him suffering? He's suffering from his own decisions, I said gently. Not mine. Silence, then sharply. That's really selfish. I let the accusation settle for a moment before answering. Not cruelly, but clearly. No, I said. What would be selfish is asking me to step into the fire he lit and pretend it's my job to put it out. I spent months trying to be enough for him while he kept one foot in someone else's world. I'm not doing that again, not even as a favor. Natalie didn't respond, so I finished it. Tell him I wish him well, I said, but I'm not reopening a door I closed for a reason. Then I hung up. And when I stepped back inside, Kyle looked at me like he already knew the whole story. You okay? He asked softly. I nodded. Just someone trying to make their problem my problem. He slid his hand across the table, taking mine. You don't owe anyone your peace, he said, especially not someone who broke it. The relief that washed through me was immediate, because he wasn't jealous, he wasn't threatened, he wasn't insecure. He understood what self-respect looks like, and he stood with me in it. 3 months later, the regional director position opened up at work. 6 weeks of interviews, case studies, logistics presentations, and meetings with higher-ups. When the offer came through, it included a salary increase big enough to make me sit down. Life was moving. Not backward, not sideways, forward. Kyle and I were doing the same. No pressure, just progress. And Liam? I heard through the grapevine he finally started real therapy. Stopped trying to contact me through third parties. Stopped lurking online. Good. Healing is possible. Growth is possible. Just not with me as the scaffolding he leans on. Sometimes I still think about the version of myself who allowed a man's indecision to shrink her world. About the woman who excused red flags because she didn't want to seem dramatic. Who took lies personally. Who thought calmness was the same as compatibility. Who mistook being chosen occasionally for being loved consistently. But I'm not her anymore. I built a life where I don't wait for anyone to pick me. I pick me. And that has made all the difference.